country. But the poor unfortunate man, he got himself married to a woman called Mrs. McCool. And they came up here to live. And the poor condemned man, he was walking along the coast here when he sees standing on the coast of Scotland another giant. Now these two giants didn't like each other, and they started to shout terrible abuses at each other and call each other all sorts of terrible bad names. But the Scottish giant was a little bit good at doing this, a little bit better at doing this than Phil McCool was. And Phil McCool was a bad loser, and he was a bit of a hothead. And Phil McCool decided that he was going to cross the sea to Scotland, and he was going to beat up the Scottish giant. Now, apart from the obvious problem, there wasn't a boat big enough to bring Phil McCool across to Scotland. So, Phil McCool decided to build a causeway, and he carefully crafted each of the stone columns himself, and he placed them in the sea. And when the job was done, one morning he gets himself up out of his bed and he crosses the causeway to Scotland. Now when Finn McCool arrived in Scotland, he got a bit of a shock, didn't he? For he soon found out that the Scottish giant was 3 times bigger than he was. You need to turn right. You need to turn right. You went the wrong way. You went the wrong way, and now you're in my way. Where was I? Yes. So Finn McCool ran back across the causeway. Now what does every Irishman do when he gets himself into trouble? And don't say he goes on the drink, because he doesn't. He went to his wife, didn't he? Mrs. McCool. Mrs. McCool, said Finn McCool, I'm in a lot of trouble. The Scottish giant is 3 times bigger than me. He's coming across the causeway. He's going to beat me up. What do you think I should do? And Mrs. McCool was a very cool woman indeed. And she decided that they would go into the kitchen, they put on the kettle, and they would have a cup of tea while they were thinking about this. So there's Finn McCool and Mrs. McCool sitting down drinking tea, when Mrs. McCool comes up with a very clever plan. And she decides to dress her husband up as a baby, and she puts him into the bed. An hour later, there's a big knock on the door, and there standing in the doorway was the Scottish giant. Hello, Mrs. McCool, said the Scottish giant. Hello yourself, said Mrs. McCool. Can I help you? Aye. Where is he? He's at work. He will be home till 5 o'clock. Would you like to come in and have a cup of tea while you're waiting? Aye, that's very kind of you. I will. So now we have the Scottish giant and Mrs. McCool sitting down at the kitchen table drinking tea. And the Scottish giant is looking around the room when he sees in the bed a baby. And he's looking at this baby and he's scratching his head. And he turns around to Mrs. McCool and he said to Mrs. McCool, Mrs. McCool, yes, who owns the baby in the bed? That's Finn McCool's little baby. Lovely little baby he is, isn't he? Yeah, Finn McCool's little baby, yeah. And the Scottish giant is looking back at this baby and he's scratching his head again when he's doing his calculations, and he suddenly realises, if that's the size of Finn McCool's baby, how big is Finn McCool? The Scottish giant got a bit of a shock, excused himself from the table, ran back across the causeway, and to prevent Finn McCool from catching him, he pulled up the causeway behind him. Now that's the true story of the Giant's Causeway, and who built it, and who broke it up again. Now isn't that much better than a load of geologists trying to tell us
about a volcano that never existed.
From Bantry Bay to Derrycare, from Galway to Dublin down. No, maid, I've seen it at fair Colleen that I met in the county down. She was up in a line and looks so sly and a smile like a rose in June. And they held each other a lily white throat, she lit in an Irish tune. And to put her on down, she'd be in a trance, she slipped to a jigger reel. And her eyes did roll, it would lift your soul and your heart would like be steel. From Bantry Bay down to Derrycare, from Galway to Dublin town. No, maid, I've seen it at fair Colleen that I met in the county down.